Welcome back, everyone, to another brand new edition of Once Upon a Turnbuckle. And I'm not going to make a habit of trying to go over old ground, but when I was bringing this show back, there were a few at the top of my list that I really wanted to get back on from last time. And started off very strong with James Ellis, and the other guy at the top of my list is with me right now. He's one half of a blockbuster double bill. I'm gonna call it. Welcome back to the show, Jordan Sparks. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing great. Yeah, I'm doing really good.
You are
And
doing great.
I thank you for having me. Thank
That's all right. Anytime, anytime. I say you're doing great because I mean, if we again a bit like with James, I suppose last week got so much to cover since we last caught up, and you in particular are in quite a different place than you were last time. So we got a lot of positive stuff to cover. Congratulations, by the way. This is becoming a bit of a theme as well. Um, two title wins recently in the last couple of weeks, which we'll get into. But congratulations on is it last night? Slam Masters Wrestling Tag Team Champions was
Yes,
this
yes,
weekend.
yeah. The banking hall. Yeah, against the greedy souls. No, no, yeah, really good. Really awesome.
Every I swear, every time I look at your Instagram, there's another belt around you somewhere at the minute. So it's well, we'll get that's one of the big things that I want to go and talk about is where you are right now in terms of the blockbusters, and we will get into that in a bit more detail. And where do we start? Really, it's been where are we? It was October 21 that we last spoke, so 3.5 years nearly.
Yeah.
Um, I think when we spoke, you were at the time you were the Reach Academy champion. And you're in quite a different position now. Fill us in, really. What is the last few years in general looked like for you?
I don't know. I don't know. It all starts off with like you just want to. When I first started, it wasn't really a case of like, oh, I'm gonna, I don't know, like not make a career out of this, but I'm not gonna be doing it for like that. It all starts out with just you just want to try it. I just wanted to try it. That's what it was. I wanted to go to my first training session and see how I liked it, and then since then I was hooked. And then since then, I've been to different schools. I've
Wow,
gone, and then you travel all over the UK and Europe and then we go abroad. So it's one of them where I mean, yeah, 2021 was a different time for me,
it was.
very different.
It really was. And you were very kind of local, I think, back then. Down here in the southwest. And I mean, look at you now. You've been, like I say, all over the country. We'll get into your trip across the pond as well, because I think there's a lot I want to know about, really, from your time over there. But okay, let's just set the scene, shall we? So at the moment, am I counting right? Four different tag team titles that you currently hold at the moment with Toby St John as the Blockbusters.
That's correct. That is
That's
correct.
insane. I don't think I've ever, or certainly never spoken to someone who's been holding so many championships at the time that we speak. But four different, and one of those belongs over in America as well. So
Yes,
equally
yeah,
as
that's right.
impressive.
Yeah.
And also the WrestleForce UK Heavyweight Champion. I've got to get that in there as well because I
Oh
was uber impressed when I saw that within the last couple of weeks. Two of those within the last couple of weeks. You've been a busy guy.
yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. Very busy. Yeah, but this is the thing. This is the thing with wrestling, isn't it? It spins and roundabouts. I'm thinking. January traditionally can get a bit quiet. Can get. It's almost like January never ends. But like
Yes.
this time around, honestly, it went like that. It was just really quick,
Mm,
really quick for me. And the more that you start picking up, the more that you just start losing track of time.
yeah, absolutely. So let's scale back as much as we can, sort of back over the last few years. Your career has obviously taken quite a trajectory from where you were back then. Where and when did that what path did you kind of follow that then where can you pinpoint that it really started to go off in this different direction?
Um, I don't know. I always really attribute the change in me as a wrestler to to when I started spending more time training with the English Lion, Eddie Ryan. That's probably the time where I started to pick things up differently, and at the same time when we started making trips to go to New Wave Wrestling Academy as well.
Okay,
I'd probably say a combination of those two is what made me, I guess, the rest of who I am today, really.
awesome.
And Yeah, I'd probably the end of 2022, really. I feel like
Okay.
the time period between even when I even have, let's say, my first training session back in
Mm,
October 2019 up until like the end of 2022,
mm,
like I was probably like the same kind of like person all throughout. And then it's only really after the back end of 2022 going into 2023 that I
mm.
really feel like watching anything before then, I don't really feel comfortable watching it. I kind of feel like I'm not the same person that I am now, or like there's no similarities really. It's only
Yeah.
really when I started going into 2023 that I look at my work and think, okay, like, this is something that I
Yeah.
can, watch and be kind of happy with or content with,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Was there anything that clicked that you remember that kind of because you've gone through, I would say a bit of a persona change. I suppose you're still very much playing the heel most places, if I'm right in saying that. So
Mm,
you're obviously very comfortable with that. But you have changed from, if I say when I last spoke to you, a bit bratty, I think
mm.
is a good word. And is that naturally come with age in maturity within those few years, or is there something specific that kind of turns you
Yeah,
turns
well,
you
I don't think I'm a bad guy. No, no.
around?
I don't know, I'm not bad of a guy. No, 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 no. I don't know what it is. Like when we say like a clicking moment for me,
Mm,
it was probably again a moment involving Eddie Ryan. Back in the day. Again, I didn't really know what I had, or like I didn't really know how well I could, what I could do in wrestling really.
yeah.
So
Mm,
I wasn't really taking it as seriously as I should have been. Because like as much as there's times when you think like, oh, well, it's just wrestling. I'm not,
mm,
I'm not doing it full time or anything. That's how I looked at it. And
yeah.
then it just took just one day with Eddie Ryan. He kind of just put me aside and basically just gave me, well, he didn't put me aside, but it was aimed. I felt it was aimed at me in a good way. Like I needed to be told.
Constructive criticism.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. I
Yeah.
needed to be told um, in a positive reinforcement sense that I need to start working harder and doing more to get to places where I want to be.
Yeah.
And it was kind of a case of like, what do you want? Like what do you want to leave behind when you're done with wrestling? Like after a while, like who, who do you want to be associated with? Who do you
Mm,
want to, who do you want to look at you and say, yeah, he's
yeah.
good, or that sort of stuff. Like, and it's just like essentially, who do I want to be is what he was asking me. And I feel like after that, it completely turned me 180. And I think that is when the
That's
switch, that was the light bulb that I was like, okay,
that's very cool.
yeah,
That's cool, and it's good that you can obviously there's a lot of contributing factors, over the last couple of years with that. But when you can kind of attribute someone with giving you that spark that you needed, and yeah, I obviously I've spoken to Eddie in the past as well, and I have the utmost respect for what he is doing, and the impact that he's had on particularly guys like yourself who have come through the ranks and are where you are. And so I mean, I've got to ask as well. I'm a certain age where I'm trying to look better. I'm trying to look after myself better and everything. And I've seen there is a physical transformation in you, definitely since we last spoke. Any secrets? What happened there? Or was it, again, just a gradual thing?
um, yeah, this is a gradual thing, I suppose. I mean, again, it was a part of the taking it more seriously aspect of it. You know, I started to really put my hours into the gym. I mean,
Mm,
I claimed that I went to the gym, back in 2019, but like, there's going to the gym and there's another level of actually having a
doing
plan of
yourself.
what you're going to do when you're going to go in there,
Mm,
what muscle groups you're going to work,
yeah.
what's your diet like, how you're going to clean that up, cardio, steps, everything. Like,
Mm,
it's a whole other,
yeah.
it's a whole different beast when you start taking it seriously. So as soon as that happened, that's when the like physical transformation happened.
Mm,
And then I'd probably say like, even then, like, in 2023, like, yes, I was bigger, but like I wasn't where I wanted to be, or I wasn't like
no.
close to being like, okay, like this is like a good look for me.
Mm,
It was more of a case of like, okay, like, I put on weight, I kind of I look more to what I'm gearing towards.
yeah.
But then after that, it was more after my first tour of America, I kind of came back and I was like, right, I need to like get in shape because obviously the food in
Yeah.
America is great. and I just ate
Well,
everything when I was out there.
yeah, I'll
And
bet.
then I came back, and that's when I got in touch with Dan Bryden. He's my coach. He's my
Yeah.
guy who, he's been making all these plans for me. Every
Mm,
12 weeks, he'll update me with a different plan, and we'll work to either cut or bulk. So that was the change, really. And then since then, I've just been,
yeah.
just taking it along. Just
Did that change your wrestling style at all from what you were doing before?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
I think so, yeah. It kind of made me look at things slightly differently.
Yeah.
I feel like, I feel like there's a point where you're just doing things, whether it's to
Mm,
trial things out or whether you're like, I might try this. And
yeah.
again, I was kind of like a spare part. I felt like I wasn't like if I'm in like just on a card, I'm just a
Yeah.
somebody, I could
Yeah.
be anybody,
Yeah.
So it was just trial. Eventually, I did find my style, and then that came with, oh well, this is how I look now, so I can
Yeah.
start to wrestle how I look, and I'm getting stronger, and I can
Yeah,
do
opens a few
whatever
more
things.
doors for. I would say it opens different doors for you. I would imagine, because there's certain avenues you can go, different sizes and that. But did this kind of play into? We'll talk now. One of the most impressive things I think I've seen, not just for you but across the indie scene. Um, how I have kept up to date with it as much as I can since I've not been doing the show. One of the things I've consistently seen is the blockbusters. And I tell you what, I am an old school tag team wrestling guy growing up in the 80s and appreciating the early 90s. And what you guys are doing, I wouldn't mind betting, is really nostalgic for me and really got my attention because I feel for a long time tag team scene in wrestling's been pretty dire. They've just been a case of just throwing two guys together. They don't even have a name, nothing, familiar about them. But what you guys are doing is really for me harking back to what I grew up with. Talk through the genesis of that tag team because it is obviously, I would say, probably an integral part of what you are at the moment
Oh
and
yeah,
what you are known for.
yeah, 100%, yeah. So it just started again, probably 22, probably 2022, maybe the middle or around that part. We
Mm,
kind of just thought like I also thought the same. I wasn't really making a dent,
mm,
singles wise. And then we kind of just thought, well, me and Toby both have a very, very similar, taste in wrestling, especially tag wrestling,
yeah.
So it's like, the styles just blend immediately.
Mm,
And we're like, yeah, so why don't we try tagging? And then you can't have a name. But
mm.
obviously, we had to change our name. We were the Pre-Sexy Playboys, but we changed that, so it's a bit
Okay.
more, So then it's a bit more um, ambiguous, I suppose, to what what we can do when we come in,
Yeah.
whether they want to like us, they want to boo us, you know what I mean? Like we got
Okay. Yeah, I get that.
so yeah, and then since then we've just been again we start off as just, a tag team and then you get the tag gear and then after that it's like okay, we can really start honing our craft now and really, you start as just a tag team again as everybody else you start as like a thrown together tag team, but then
Mm,
we start to develop and the chemistry starts to develop and then from there it's just like, it's just like I know what he's thinking, and he knows what
that's
I'm
cool.
thinking. You know what I mean?
Does that make it more fun? When you get to that stage and you can really, it's less work, I guess. I mean, there's a lot of schematics within making a tag team work and making it believable. I mean, again, it's that whole identity of are you just two singles guys that have been put together, or are you a unit? And I mean, seeing what you guys do, you've got that fluidity that I feel, like I say, been missing for a long time. Do you feel that came quite naturally when you started off?
Yeah, very naturally. Yeah, it was just a case of like it was almost a case of just trying to find places for us to work at first. It was like, okay, like we know what like we kind of knew what our identity was, we've got the same again, we've got the same sort of style, like, oh, this is what we should be, like, like, this is what we should be doing this. And
Mm,
anytime any of us put forward an idea, it's always like, we should be doing this. And everyone's like, yeah, we should be doing that. Like it's like we both play with each other, it's natural, we both know
yeah,
what we're thinking. So yeah, it just felt quite natural. And if I'm quite honest with you, tag team wrestling is the best form of wrestling. I love tag team wrestling more than anything else in the world. It's just the the amount of emotion, and
Mm.
drama that we can draw from the crowd is just it's like it beats anything in a singles, you know, because it's always a simple story, you know.
Yeah,
There's always such a simple story, and then from there you can just branching paths is how I always feel about it. There's always
yeah.
just one main story, and then from there you can go anywhere you want, you know.
It's a good way of looking at it. The crowd interaction, I'm really getting a feel for. Again, I've not been out to many shows still as much as I'd like to, but the one thing I am getting, especially from these independent shows over here, the crowds are mega into it, and immediately. I think for it must be for you as immediately as you come through the curtain, if you're in or you're out as far as the crowd goes, because they let you know. And what do you? I mean, do you still enjoy being the heel? I know when we spoke last time, it was something that you really, you preferred. Have you had a bit of a taste of the other side, or do you really comfy with where you are?
Yeah. Surprisingly, I have actually had, a lot, a lot of people cheering us, and it's a case of like we always make a joke. I always joke that like Toby comes across as very likable, and then I'm just not very. You know what I mean? Like it's like he comes across as very likable, and I don't come across as likable. It's always the
Yeah,
joke.
yeah,
You know what I mean? So like, yeah, we've honestly it yo-yos between what the crowd
yeah,
thinks about us. We'll go someplace and they want to cheer us. We'll go someplace and want to boo us. Like
mm,
we do yo-yo a lot from time to time, but like
mm.
whatever it is, we're just gonna roll with it. We're not
Yeah,
we don't shy away from any sort of adversity, but at the same time they want to cheer us instead, and we're more
yeah.
than happy to roll with that.
Cool. Well, it's a bit another layer of excitement, isn't it, when you go out and you're not too, even if you don't know which way they're going to go,
Mm.
and you can feed off that. Now, I am going to throw out. I was going to ask, is there any kind of influences or inspirations behind your tag team and the way you are? I've got one clear one in my head that you really do remind me of from the off, but I want to see whether you land on it or not. So no pressure.
Well,
Um,
one that we always get again, is we always get the Hollywood Blondes. That's
yes,
one that we always get.
there
Yeah,
you go.
it's
There you go.
it's the look. It's
Mm,
it's the tie, it's the jackets. It's it's everything. It's the whole package. That we
mm.
bring. We do get the Hollywood Blondes a lot. Obviously we got many other many other influences. We got the Rock and Roll Express. We got the Midnights, the Midnight Express. We got the Brainbusters. And even like a more modern example, like when I first started, I thought we were going to be more, American Alpha is the way
Okay.
I looked at it because I thought, at the time it was like, well, I'm the smaller one, of the team, and then Toby's the big one. But
Mm.
I mean, I'm never going to be as big as Toby, but it's always a case of now. It's like it's getting, it's not as far as it once was. Like back,
No.
like back a long time ago, there was a fair difference, but
Yeah.
you'd be surprised at how many people will get us mixed up, like
Oh, really?
legitimately mixed up. Like people start calling me Toby, and then they have to correct it, or the amount of times we've had people say, "Oh, like like clearly you guys are brothers, or you guys knew each other before wrestling, that sort of stuff," and we're like,
Yeah.
"No, no,
And that's cool.
yeah."
You just got that look, and it just looks like you belong together as a team. And some of those names that you just reeled off made me really happy because that is when I think the tag team scene was the best. You are talking late 80s, very early 90s. Tag teams had an identity. They were fluid with what they did. They were believable as a unit. So, fair play to both of you for having. I think there's probably more of that out there now. I think it is making its way back, but you guys are definitely the ones that are on my radar as ones that seem to be doing it the best. So, and it shows when you look back, like I said at the top of the show, is how many promotions, tag team titles that you hold. There's a certain amount of faith put in you to be representing that promotion as the top tag team. How does that feel? As an endorsement.
Yeah, it feels good. Well, it kind of feels like, it's not all for nothing, like
Mm,
there is, I suppose there is a level of pressure. It's good pressure, it's a pressure like, oh, well, like we're not just a match on the card, you know what I mean? Now
mm,
it's like, it's they put faith in us to, deliver on the card.
mm,
The crowd come to, watch us, whether it's a
yeah,
case of they've watched, they come to watch someone else on the bill, but we're going to surprise them with something. We want to leave them with just almost like just like a parcel of just like what we can actually do. You know, it's
Yeah,
not just, again, as you said, it's not just two singles in a team
yeah,
against another two singles, and it's just two guys, are fighting, and then they have to tag out at some point. It's like we offer something that I do believe that not a lot of other teams do.
yeah,
Like we offer something that, as you said, it seems fluid. It seems like there's a lot of moving parts.
yeah.
Is what I like about it.
Yes. Yeah. And that's communication not only between yourselves, but between obviously the guys that you're in the ring with as well. And tag team wrestling has always got a bit of a bad rep. I think all the years that I've followed it, people find it boring. And I think that's where it died in sort of you talk about sort of attitude era onwards, probably for about 10 or 15 years. They weren't really doing a lot with it.
Mm,
Um, and I really hated that. I thought there was such a, like you say, it's such a story that you can tell with four guys in the ring. One of my favorite ever matches, one of the first match that I ever saw was Survivor Series '88. It was the 10 team um, match, and you had a who's who there of tag teams, and they were having to communicate, if you will, throughout that whole match. You had so many moving parts in that. Have you had any particularly great teams that you've worked with that you would happily kind of go back and work with again and again? Have you had any that you on the other side of the scale that you really haven't gelled with and it's been a real kind of difficult one to get through?
God, for ones that we love to work and have worked, it really is tough because I feel like we've had a lot of good. You know what I
Mm,
mean? Like I feel like ones that we blend especially well with is like the professionals. So yeah, Eddie and Joel. I
yeah,
mean, it's just like it just feels like nothing's again it doesn't it doesn't feel like work. You know what I mean? It feels
yeah,
like it feels like we're really making something. We had a good one with the Smoking Aces as well at
mm,
UPW. That was a good one. That was the first time we'd ever worked with the same parts, and who knows if we'll ever do it again because Nick Riley says he's hanging them up.
I know, yeah,
I
it's getting
know, I
brought
know,
back.
I know. It's breaks my heart, but yeah. But at least we got one in,
That's good.
before. Like I feel like one that we did have, well, we had two actually with these guys, but it was Riley Noble and Brady Phillips way back in PEW.
Mm,
We had some good ones with them, and again, it was very very reminiscent. It was very 80s,
yeah,
and it's just that style will never be captured again. It's just perfect. It's such a great blend of
yeah,
I suppose the crowd are so hungry to see that sort of wrestling again that
yeah,
when they do finally see it and you pay it off, it's like it's like magic.
yeah. And you know that you'll be brought back. And this is the thing. I think there's so many promotions, especially over here now. It really seems to be thriving, and you're capturing attention of quite a lot of them. Um, do you feel you've got to that point as a team where you have almost you're not having to sell yourselves quite as much, that you've just got that reputation and your name precedes you, and you're getting contacted or inquired by other promotions that you wouldn't have done before?
Yeah, yeah, I suppose so. I suppose it's a case of like I think it's more of a case of like when I'm first starting or I'm first coming up, the first couple of years, it's more of a case like, oh, well, you get told you got to reach out, because they don't know
Mm,
who you are, so you reach out and you reach out, and then slowly but surely, I'm starting to go places to, just show my face. And I really do believe that most of it isn't actually like from reaching out to people on social media. A lot of it is
mm,
word of mouth, like just people knowing who you are and whether it is working with the singles and eventually because they see me and Toby are a team, like, oh well those guys, okay, that makes sense. Yeah,
yeah,
they got the matching gear, they put the effort in. Okay, yeah, let's bring them in. And then it's almost as a case of the bring them in, and then that's the
mm,
elevator pitch for us, and we do our
yeah,
match, and then it's like oh, okay, well then, well, either they want us back or they don't.
yeah.
So I do believe word of mouth is probably the most powerful tool that we've had, which has got us most places.
That's good. That's good. Long may it continue. I mean, it's obviously, like I said, it's a very big endorsement. See how many titles that you've picked up along the way, and I've got to. needed to ask about your experience over in America because you've trained. Is it twice now you've been out with Pritchard, Pritchard and Jacobs
Jacobs-Prichard
Wrestling
Wrestling
Academy?
Academy. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, what? Firstly, obvious question: how did that come about? And second obvious question is, what was that like? Because you got some top notch. You know, it must have been invaluable for those months you were out there to learn under an absolute legend, especially tag teaming like Tom Pritchard.
Oh yeah, like it was just like obviously when you see it on paper, you're automatically I'm buzzing. Like
Mm,
it was a case of we all made a decision. Okay, let's go over there. And there's a lot of other schools that are over there. It's not like as if there's only like two or three that you really look at. There's so many based around all over the states.
mm,
You could really choose anywhere and end up doing well. But I
mm,
feel like the JPWO was just perfect for us. And we all agreed, in unison. But it was a case of we had to reach out, and the first time we went over there, it was primarily training based. It
yeah,
was primarily, 12 weeks, Monday to Friday, Wednesday's a promo class, and then you got the weekend to do whatever you want, whether you want to go to a show, whether you are booked, it's up to you what you do. So that was kind of for 12 weeks. That was all we did was just, we just trained, went to the
yeah,
gym, and went home and ate. It was just like a routine, that, and like at the time, obviously I was like, oh God, like oh yeah, not like hating it. I loved it, but
yeah.
obviously like you're coming out sore every single day, like you've got a reason to always want to go to bed early. It's not like
Sure.
it's
Yeah, I
not
get it.
like what I mean. So that was the first 12 weeks that we spent out there,
Yeah.
and then we made connections for that first 12 weeks. Went away, came back, and this
Mm,
time it was more a case of like we still trained, but it
yeah,
was more based around okay, let's get the dates
that's
together.
key.
Let's make sure that we can go out there and really do some more work, and we really did. I was really happy with what we did. I really went in with no expectations at all. I
Mm,
kind of thought, just roll the punches, see where it takes us. But no,
yeah,
um, we really did quite well out there,
you did. I mean,
especially from thinking that all we did was train the first time and then did a couple shows here and there
mm.
to, this time round, it was really awesome.
What's the main difference then, especially thinking back to the shows that you did on that first run, comparing wrestling out in America to what you know of over here? Has it changed as well since you've worked on your craft in between?
Oh yeah, like I truly believe like from before I went out to then after the first 12 weeks when I came back, like just in those 12 weeks, like you just start picking up bits and bobs from
Mm,
other places, and we're purposely just picking Tom's brain all the time about tag stuff because if that's what we
mm.
wanted to do, I mean, who better than
Absolutely. I think,
Dr.
yeah,
Tom, Heavenly Bodies, all that
yeah,
sort of stuff. So like, who better ask? Who better to get feedback from on matches and all that sort of stuff? And
yeah,
no, he's just like a really cool guy. So like, he didn't mind if we kept asking him all these questions. Like
that's
that's what
good.
he's there for.
Mm,
So yeah, I honestly do think it's night and day from after the 12 weeks that I spent out there to
mm,
coming back. Like we just had like we just had like a new like found confidence. Like it wasn't like an
yeah,
arrogance. It's just like a case of like okay, like no matter who we're in there with, like we know that we can have like a good match with them because we know what we can do. It
yeah,
wasn't a case of like okay, well let's make sure we can slot in where we can for these other guys. It's like no, we know
mm,
what like now we know what our stuff is. Like we know what works best for us. And
yeah,
then now it's a case of then you're blending the styles with the other team. You know what I mean?
absolutely. So that chemistry was already there, I suppose. It's just having someone like him give you advice. I mean, that advice is just like gold dust anyway.
Yeah.
Did you get a general feel for how he felt of how the blockbusters were forming or performing, even
Oh,
when you
like
were out there?
yeah. I mean, the best part about Dark is like even just from the off, he could just tell because he's been to the UK before.
Mm,
So when we went out there, obviously to do the training, it was a mixture of us and maybe some like newer guys. It was
mm,
varying experience.
yeah,
So when he's seen that, the way that we could, move in the ring, some of that, he's like, it's kind of like it's a really nice thing to see. It's really
yeah,
nice that he sees, not just beginners or not just intermediates, like he's seeing people who are, show ready, who are just there to see if they can just like hone their craft a bit more, just
yeah.
work on a few things. So he was very happy with just like helping us out whenever he could, and obviously he always mentions to keep in touch, and he always, says that sort of stuff. So it's really cool to hear.
That's cool. That is cool. I mean, that like, you couldn't have asked for a much better springboard, I think, at that stage in your career, I suppose, and it's been sort of, the world's your oyster since that. Um, the um, the return run that you did, you said it was more performing in that. Is that where you picked up the let me get this right, is it the NWA JCP Southeastern Tag Team Championships?
That is
That's
correct.
affiliated with the NWA.
That is correct. Yeah. Well, it was the
Pretty cool.
Southeastern, but now we've defended it in the UK. You see, so now it is a world.
Ah, nice. There you go.
Yeah. So
That's
yeah.
very cool. Just
But
to be able to have that on your CV, the NWA. I mean,
yeah.
yeah,
Oh yeah. No. No. It's awesome. And we did. Truth be told, we did shows for them beforehand, but obviously, like, they didn't know us and they didn't know what we really
mm,
do. So then, when we came out the second time and they seen, you know, just the work that we did from that 12 weeks to then when we were coming back,
yeah,
already we had changed our look even more and progressed. So they just looked at us and thought, yeah, okay. And then, they brought us over and then they're like, okay, well, you're here for, 12 weeks. We might as well just do so, obviously.
yeah.
That's when we won the championships.
And there you go. Was that the first titles that you had, or up to that point it was
So we won the Southern Pride Championship
okay?
Wrestling, the tag team championship
Yeah,
first, and
right.
then after that, it
It
was
was
the Jokers and Promotions.
very, very cool. And they're very cool belts because I am a very big fan of the NWA Domed
Mm.
champion, world title, the £10 of gold, and that. I love that. And any belts that are modelled on that, they've got my vote. Have
Oh
you
yeah.
have you got them? Have you got a room in the house where you've like just got belts hanging up or something? Or
Well, it's just yeah. I just got them. Just that they're all just lined up. Just all in a
why
row.
not?
You know,
Yeah,
I just got to have them there. At all times.
inspiration.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Fair play to you. I'll switch gears slightly then. Let's talk about your because it was quite surprising to me after seeing all of your tag team success and that, and then see you got the WrestleForce UK heavyweight title, which is obviously a singles bout. Was that a conscious decision to kind of try out? Have you been trialing out the solo stuff as well, or it's not just an opportunity that came along?
It was just an opportunity that came along. Again, I feel like that's most of wrestling, really. You never like
Yeah.
even if you go in with a goal, like you'd never know, what way you're going to be pulled or dragged. You know what I mean? So
Mm.
it has changed. I feel like based on location. When I came back, I wasn't based in Wales anymore. I'm closer to home now, so I'm based down in Dorset.
Okay.
So that locale change means that like there's slightly different companies that are more interested.
Yeah.
So one day I just got a call from Brandon Lee. He just said come on to the Rutherford show and see what it's like because he lives locally to me.
Hmm.
And then from there, one shot for another, I just picked it up. And then, all of a sudden, the new year, it's, I just got the rest of the get heavyweight championship. It just happens, I guess, it's like dominoes. There's nothing that I did in particular where I was like, yeah, this is
Yeah. No. Right place,
what
right
I've
time,
got.
kind of thing.
Yeah, it just happened just naturally.
And like you said to me earlier when I commented on one of your posts, it is only 2 months in, and look at what you're doing. What does the rest of, not that you've got a crystal ball or anything, what does the rest of 2025 should look like for you? Have you got any idea where you're going to go?
Mm,
Where?
I mean, more championships, mate. I don't know. I have absolutely no idea where it's going to go from here. I have no clue. It's just like a case of like you just kind of. I feel like you just kind of ride the lightning. You just kind of go with the flow. Like just don't fight against the current. I just do whatever. You just so many different places that you get to work at. You just never
Mm,
know what's going to happen next. You never know. There's always something that happens. In wrestling, there's never a dull moment. You
no.
can wake up and you get a message, and then that's it. Oh, I got another show, and then from there it's like it just all falls into place again. You just don't
So
know.
how looking back to when we were last talking, so 3 years ago, I think it was only 2 years you've been in wrestling up to that point. How has your life changed? Bit of a cliche type question. How has your life changed now in terms of where wrestling sits with your everyday? Your life is Jordan Sparks, the person, and Jordan Sparks, the wrestler. What does that look like now?
I feel like it's very different to what it was before.
Mm,
It was almost like a case of like, oh well, realistically, out of the 7 days, probably 2 or 3 days, maybe consume. Not when I say consume, that's a bad way of putting it.
yeah.
Dominated by wrestling. Let's say
Mm,
like 2 or 3 days, and then like slowly but surely, it's more of a case of like, okay, well, outside of me needing to go to the gym and do my meal prepping, and other sources of work. Now it's
mm,
a case of, well, it's probably more like 3 or 4 days, really. Like
right.
when you really take into account, like, the half days that you're spending, there and back, and then getting home, and then getting home late, and then,
Yeah.
you got to wake up early. Really, the ball starts rolling a bit more, and then it
Mm,
becomes more than just, a part-time thing you're doing. It does get, it's almost, I'd probably say it's more like 50-50, maybe
okay.
maybe a little bit less, but no, it's definitely a lot more than it was before. It was probably more like 2080, like 80, I'm just living a normal life, and then I just go,
Yeah.
I'll just go training, and then I'll just go to one show, and then that's it, and then I don't have to worry about anything else. But now it's a bit more like just because, I mean, not only is it a case of you take it more seriously, but then you start enjoying it more because
Yeah.
it's a case of it becomes a labor of love. It's something that you want to do. You want to keep improving on it, or even if it's a case of just like tape study. You just
Mm,
studying the greats. You start taking like I guess more you notice the details a lot more. You're not
yeah.
just watching from a perspective of like, oh my god, that was like such a good match. You're like, yeah, but what made the match good was the little bits that you could just pick out.
That's it. You're not just watching it on face value now. You are almost like critiquing it or going through because, knowing what you know about it and how you operate in the ring, you can probably pick up a lot more about why they're doing stuff and what
Yeah.
they possibly could have done or something like that. A bit more of a critical eye.
Yeah, no, 100%. Yeah.
Yes. Do you consider yourself then now where you may have been someone who, you're either a student or, you're an employee who wrestles? Are you now a wrestler who a few days of the week does something else, like a day job or something? Do you consider yourself more a wrestler now?
I like to think so.
Yeah,
I like to
cool.
think I'm probably more inclined to just like, oh, well they only need me for this many.
Mm,
Like in a week, this is how much they need me for, and then anything else I can do, just kind of like
yeah,
plan around it and then see what I can get. Or
yeah.
like, oh, I got to move that because I got wrestling that day. It's like,
That's
yeah, like I've got to move it round.
yeah,
What it's less about, oh, I can't do that day because I got work, or because I got
yeah.
okay, like no, I'm gonna have to move that because
Wrestling is the priority. It
yeah,
basically dictates what you do around it.
yeah, 100%. Yeah, that's like the crucial point,
Absolutely.
that now everything spins around that, that's
Yeah,
what it revolves around.
that should be the main. That's probably got to show, within those few years how you've transitioned. That just in that the position of wrestling now is basically what everything else revolves around.
Yeah.
Couple of final questions before, sadly, I not clock watching, but I, conscious of time. You're a busy, busy man, and you've not long finished your day stuff.
Yeah.
Um, if you're, I think 6 years now, are we talking sort of 2019? I think it was that you
Yeah,
said
from
you
when I
started
first,
about six
yeah,
years.
my first training session, stuff like that. Yeah, 2019.
If you, in those 6 years, do you think yourself 6 years ago could have envisioned you would be where you are now and accomplish what you have and what you've seen by this point in your career?
No, no, like no way. Like I didn't even think six back then. I'm just like, I'm just 19. I'm just going for uni. I'm just,
Yeah.
I'm not even focusing on that. I'm like, I'm too busy focusing on like dissertations and stupid stuff like that. I don't
Yeah.
really use it now. It's like I'm just, I'm too caught up in what's happening. On my like, monthly basis
Yeah.
rather than like what's the goal?
Mm,
Like what's the short term and long term?
yeah.
Like what's my smart targets? I didn't even think about that back then. But no, there's no way if you would have asked me like what do you like where do you think you'll be in 5 years? I wouldn't. That would not have been. I would not have been close at all.
No. You know what the next question's going to be then? being like a school careers advisor and that 5 year plan. Do you have one? Do you envisage where you would like to be in 5 years' time,
5 years time?
or two, or three, or however?
I
What's
mean,
what's the goal?
the goal is in 5 years time to at least, I want to at least have 1 or 2 years at the bare minimum being full time in wrestling. At the bare minimum, like just to just to experience what that feels like.
Mhm.
The fact that you're that busy that you can make a living off of it without having to worry about, other day stuff or, again, I don't have to worry about planning around a day. Again, I'm
Mm.
worried more about, okay, no, I can't miss that. Like that's
Yeah,
like doing that, but without any, exterior, funds or no part-time, nothing like that. I want to spend a whole 12 months at the bare minimum, just living off of wrestling.
I like that. I really like that, and that is the dream, obviously, for any of us growing up with it as kids. We always wanted to get there, and
Yeah.
it's hard to imagine how these guys get to that point that they can do that. But you are showing it is at least possible to aim towards that, because the steps that you've taken in these few years itself. Yeah, imagine 3 5 years down the line what you can build on. From where you are now. So yeah, fair play,
Yeah.
fair play. I hope to see that. That'd be good to see. Um, I forgot to ask actually as well, just a topical question then. What is your take then, fresh off the as we are recording this, it is a Monday, by the way, it's not going out till the Friday, I know, but as recording it, very, very hot topic at the moment. Obviously, John Cena. What's your take on it?
Oh, God.
As a wrestling fan
Yeah.
and as a wrestler, I suppose, if you've got two different opposing views depending on how you're looking at it.
Yeah. I mean, Cena was and is the man for me. Like when I was growing up, he was like, obviously, like now that I look back at when I was growing up, I go like, no, no, I never looked at Cena as like the guy that But then like I look back and then I think about the John Cena pajamas I used to have, and then like the lunchbox, and
It's
all
like Hulk Hogan for me, got rammed down your throat, and you kind
yeah,
of you just happened to be
yeah.
a Hulk
Well,
Hogan guy or
you
John
like
Cena guy.
WWE because you like WWE because you're a kid,
Yeah.
so you like John Cena because he was the guy back then.
Yeah.
It's one
Yeah.
of the things. It's two and two. It goes together.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I mean, obviously from like a fan point of view, I've always been like, oh yeah, well they should turn him.
Yeah.
He should just turn. He shouldn't. He should just be a guy all the time. He should turn.
Yeah.
And then like you start to think like, oh no, well like you gotta think like as much as I love the WWE,
Mm,
it's a product that is geared towards families. It is geared
yeah.
towards kids and stuff like that. So like, yeah, I have to keep catching myself every now and then because you do think like, oh no, that should be right. Then you go, oh yeah, well that does make sense actually. Or like why can't I see these coming? But that sort of stuff. But
Yeah.
um, obviously, it's really cool to see, especially from like this Hollywood Rock
Yeah.
and Hollywood Cena. Like that is a really cool. That's a
Yeah.
really cool dynamic. That's not how I thought it would work. Like I don't know how in my head I envisioned him to turn, but it was not that. It was not
That's
him and Rock
probably
pair up.
that's probably why it's not happened before. I think you're right there. It seems to have happened in the right way.
Yeah,
Sure, it would have been forced before, I suppose, and
yeah,
not have had a reason for it.
yeah.
So
Because I always think about like, oh, like he was so cool when he was just a rapper. He was
yeah,
cool when he was just he
yeah,
was rapping like the lines that he was saying. But then obviously he wasn't really a villain for that long because they
no,
started to like the fact that his rhymes were so ridiculous.
yeah,
Started to like him, and then you're like, well, I don't like. It wasn't the fact that he was a bad guy; it's the fact that he was just not really taking it that seriously. He was just like,
yeah,
he was just so chill, and he was just like rapping at his opponents, and then all of a sudden. Then he started becoming, oh my God, they actually like me, they're behind me, and he starts doing
yeah,
stuff like, the actually in this big show for United States Championship and all that sort of stuff, and then it just the ball slowly starts rolling, and then
yeah.
now he's the top guy.
It's so funny thinking about the kind of the similar path that John Cena and The Rock have taken, but over very, very different time periods. Because when The Rock came in as Rocky Maivia, he was just white meat baby face,
Mm,
blue chipper, and the fans got sick of him very quickly. And within the year, he was. starting to become turned and he's starting to become this Rock character that we all know him for today.
Mm.
With John Cena, from what I wasn't massively invested in wrestling at the time that he kind of came about, but what I've seen and heard, he kind of went on this transition where became good and he was white hot, but then at some point the fans again started to turn because they were sick to the back teeth of him being there all the time.
Mm.
His seems to have taken 20 years, whereas The Rock's took about a year to do
Mm.
that transition. Um, how do you think this is going to play out? Obviously, he's got a time frame for this. We know he's retiring at the end of the year. What do you feel they're going to do with this?
It's got to be, in my opinion, it's got to be Mania night one. It's got to
Mm,
be, it has to be Cody and Punk versus Rock and Cena, like in a tag. It has to be. I feel like
can
that
see
has
that
to be,
works.
that has to be a case if they're doing the Hollywood two-man power trip thing, and
Yeah,
then obviously there's been seeds sown with in the chamber, the GTS and Punk, that sort of stuff. Obviously, just for Cody, just getting absolutely mauled. I feel like
yeah,
that's going to be a tag match that's going to happen, and that'd be like judging based off of the last Mania,
mm,
like with just Reigns and Rock. I
mm,
mean, just a special seeing Rock there is, it's cool enough.
yeah,
But that whole match was terrific. And then
yeah,
night two, that's when we're gonna see the championship match.
yeah. Prediction: do you think he's getting the 17th one? Personally, I don't think they're setting this up for him not to get this. They can't
Yeah.
be,
I, I mean, again, the Cena fan, I want to see him get the
Yeah,
17th. I want to see that. That'd be a
yeah,
really cool visual to see him, on his last run, his first one, he gets it, and then I mean, who knows? But I want to see Orton and Cena again at some point. That'd be really cool.
yeah.
I thought that'd be a really cool thing to, run it back. But
There is a wish list, I think, that is there somewhere. They
yeah,
have probably listened to Triple H, seems to be doing more of the listening to the fans than Vince did. So I
yeah,
guess there must be a wish list of angles and people that he's got to work with while he's got this time,
yeah,
this opportunity. Um, I'm not a massive Cena fan at all, so I think anything to spice him up was welcome.
yeah,
Um, I don't know. I was wrestling with the pardon the pun, wrestling with the idea of, are they forcing it within the last year? Is it the right time to do this? Are they just doing it because they've not done it before and they've got to tick it off the list? We've got to see heel Cena. We've got to give him the title run. They do it right, hopefully.
yeah, 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 yeah. I can see that, I suppose. I mean, yeah, I can see that. But like, I don't know. I mean, like, I feel like the reaction of this turn compared to like when you see like
Mm,
other tall guys like when they did force it with like Austin. That was a force. Like you didn't need to like I know he wasn't at the same level as he once was, but that was
uh,
in my opinion that was like totally like that was just a swerve for the sake of it.
Unnecessary. Yeah, it was
That was like,
shocking
yeah,
because he ended up with Vince, and I think you could buy into the whole desperation thing
yeah,
of that was what he had to do to have that last title, and similar to what Cena's doing now, I suppose.
yeah,
But you're right, it didn't seem to.
yeah.
Yeah, it seemed to be the wrong time, the wrong thing to do.
It's like this had to have happened like a little bit later on. Like
Mm,
like I like I personally love the two-man power trip, but like if we
I
could
did.
if we
Mm,
could have seen that play out in a different way that wasn't just, maybe
mm,
it's not just signing with Vince. Maybe he just signs with Triple H and he's still got the thing with Vince where he's like, well, I don't really like him because we're still like, because of the
mm,
history. But he's just with like he's
yeah,
just like, chill, something like that where like there's different layers to it rather than just being like, you know what, I just want
mm,
to win titles. I'm just gonna like forget all the times that, I beat
yeah.
you with like a bedpan and stuff like that, and that sort of stuff.
I mean, it was a great thing to do, and that's one of my, considering I fell out of love with wrestling, not fell out of love, but I fell out of the scene around about 2001, 2002.
Mm.
One thing I absolutely love going back to is the invasion angle, and I am planning an episode with a friend of mine to where we are basically going to rip apart the invasion angle and what went wrong and what went
Oh
right and
yeah,
how could it have been rebooked. It's one of my favorite things to that I haven't done yet.
yeah,
So what they were doing back then is great, and people are likening the Cena heel turn to Hogan, obviously in '96, which I can appreciate. It's probably on the same sort of level.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'd say so. Like I don't know what. what effect that's going to bring. Like I don't know, but like it's so hard to even come close to the levels of like you got to think about everything that just tipping that domino of Hogan turning
Yeah,
like how much that actually affected wrestling as a whole.
yeah.
Like the entire boom like period of the Attitude Era just got
It wouldn't exist as it does today. I mean, there's so many ripple effects. The butterfly effect, even that's come
yeah.
from that. I think, yeah, absolutely. But Jordan. But anyway, I wasn't meant to go down such a John Cena rabbit hole there, but I thought it was good. It's a good topic to kind of at least get someone else's view on.
Yeah.
Um, this has been fantastic, mate. Thank you so much for coming back on. I am going to afford you the floor, like I do with everyone else. Do let everyone know where they can follow you, where they can see you, your upcoming appearances, sell yourself. Not that you have to really do too much of that, but floor is yours, sir.
Okay. I mean, you can catch me on Facebook. That's just Jordan Sparks Wrestler. And pretty simple as we got my Instagram handle. That's Jordan Sparks PW. And then you've got me on X, which you will see me on, but you won't see me as often because it's so much easier to post on Facebook and Instagram that I don't use X as often. But I am at Jordan DE Sparks on my X. But on the 8th, I will be at Brick King Pro in Bristol in Emerson Green, I believe. And that'll be me and Toby in a tag match of some sort, defending our NWA JCP World Tag Team Championships. Someone added heavyweight to it recently, and I do like that because
Okay.
it makes you feel good. So they are the NWA JCP World
Absolutely.
Heavyweight Tag Team Championships.
I like that. I like that. I love the fact that you've been able to turn it from you can win it as the southeastern one and turn it into a world. I mean, that's fantastic. I mean,
Yeah.
any time that anyone can add further credibility to a title just by, you know, just by bringing it overseas, fantastic. Listen, Jordan, thank you so much, mate. You're always welcome back. Let's not leave it 3 years next time.
Yeah.
It gives us a lot to talk about. But no, all the best, mate. And
Very much,
I'll
mate.
see you again.
Cheers.
If you enjoyed this episode, please take a moment to like, share, and hit the subscribe button. Also follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Once Upon a Turnbuckle to keep updated about all future shows.